Hello, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. We've got another terrific guest on my show today. You know, I don't know, everybody says, where do you get these guests from? I said, well, it's searching and finding out recommendations from other people. Well, my guest today is Ryan Paul Tremblay. Ryan is a cryptozoologist, research and folklorist. Studies all different sorts of things. The Wendigo, Narushi, is that what they call it? Narushi, and
Yep, they call
lots more, and about the skinwalkers and all that carry on. Can we please welcome Ryan to the show? Hello there.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Doing good over the pond.
Nice, nice. I'm doing well too. I'm keeping busy. I got my Wendigo book that I'm finishing up, so I'm hoping that's going to be a really good seller.
Oh, there it is as well. Tell us, for the listeners out there, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I grew up as a monster kid. Okay, my dad was a huge monster movie fan, so I grew up watching all the Universal monsters, the Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy. I grew up with the Hammer films, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
started a love for the monsters. But when I was about 5 or 6, I fell in love with the Godzilla movies, and that kind of led to Gamera and Ultraman. So monsters have always been a part of my life. And my dad, he was a Cajun man, so I grew up hearing about the Rougarou, the Louisiana werewolf.
Oh,
So
yeah.
monsters were always a thing, and I just started getting into them at a young age. And I saw the Patterson Gimlin film, and that just stoked the fires for my love of Bigfoot and all things cryptid.
Yeah. How did you get into the Wendigo?
So I noticed that with YouTube videos, a lot of people were covering the Wendigo, but they were telling more horror stories than anything else. And I wanted to know the facts. I needed to know the real story behind the Wendigo. So I started, deep diving it. I started looking into books, history books, talking to different researchers to see what they knew. And they knew a little bit here and there, but I reached out to the people in Canada, the Algonquin, the Cree, and the Ojibwe. And it was really hard to get the information from them, but they found out that I have some Native American lineage, so they kind of opened up. And that's when I started hearing the true stories about the Wendigo and what it really was. And that's just that, again, that opened up the floodgates for me, and I got hooked onto the Wendigo.
Very interesting subject.
It's fascinating.
I know you're on the you're writing a book about the Wendigo.
Yes, yes. And it's proving to be a very long and arduous task, though. I mean, so far the book's like 400 pages, so I may have to cut it down a little bit, but it's going to be a good book.
I can imagine so as well. Tell us a bit about. I know a few people like Bigfoot. What do you think Bigfoot may be?
Oh, I'm one of the guys who has two different theories, okay? I think there's a flesh and blood Bigfoot out there that people are seeing, and that's the one that's very rare. That's, the one that leaves the footprints, the one that leaves the howls. But I think there's also a thing where people have become so obsessed with cryptids, with Bigfoot, that thought forms are becoming a thing where we're putting so much energy into our own thoughts that these thoughts are becoming manifestations. And people are seeing these manifestations, which would explain why they cloak, why they disappear, why they shoot them and they seem bulletproof, or they leave just one footprint and they poof, they're gone. So I'm of the mind that there's two different things going on here.
Yeah, I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Bigfoot can communicate with you?
I think when we hear the mind speak, when we talk about people hearing voices in their head, I think that's something more along the lines of the thought forms, because I don't see any physical creature being able to have telekinesis or telepathy. But if it's a thought form, who's to say what abilities they have? This could explain why Bigfoot's such like a forest ninja. It moves across the woods like it's nothing, like it's running over flat terrain. So I think when we hear the mind speak or whatever, I think those are the thought forms or the tulpas, so to speak, that people are seeing.
Yeah, yeah. What do witnesses seem to mainly notice most about Bigfoot when they encounter them?
That's an interesting question. A lot of people notice different things. Some people will notice the face or the eyes. Like the eyes and face are so human that they don't even know what to make of it. Their mind doesn't quite register. Some people notice the size. Some people notice the smell that Bigfoot gives off. It gives off this raunchy, nasty, peculiar odor that they can't really place. So there's a lot of different things that people notice when they have encounters.
Yeah, like we said previously, you've got to be up there and out there.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the weather is, get out and enjoy yourself, and hopefully you'll see something.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tell people all the time. I'll hear people say, oh, well, I don't see a dog man. I don't see Bigfoot. So I'll ask them, well, what are you doing to see it? Are you actively out in the woods looking, or, you're just sitting home watching TV? Because if you're watching TV, it's not going to come to your door, ring your doorbell and be like, hello, I'm a Bigfoot. Would you like to see me? It's not going to happen that way. I mean, it's unfortunate because I'm sure a lot of people would like to see it. But if you're sitting at home watching TV or stuck on your phone, you're not going to see a Bigfoot.
Oh, no, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they have paranormal powers?
Again, I think that kind of, goes back and takes a U-turn to the whole thought form theory that, these people are seeing something that's manifesting. And so if it's a manifestation, why wouldn't it have paranormal powers? I mean, we think so much that they're like almost demonic in a way that they're going to have the abilities that we think so hard on, we focus on. So these thought forms or tulpas are going to take on the powers that we think they have.
Because a lot of time the focus on about looking at a Bigfoot, and then next minute it just disappears completely, gone.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make about that?
You'd be surprised at how fast an animal can move. If it wants to get away from you, they can be gone within the blink of an eye. I've seen it with mountain lions out here in Arizona. They're there 1 minute, and then you just blink your eye and poof, there's no more mountain lion. So I think that they just know how to escape. They know how to move. They're very fast, and they know how to elude human beings.
What about these DNA studies being done with possible Bigfoot samples?
I really wish that we'd have some that were actually pure, but you have people adding this Nephilim theory to everything that kind of muddies up the waters, because we don't know the genetic makeup of a Nephilim, okay? So when you say it's part human, part animal, and part Nephilim, you're ruining that theory. You're not giving it that pure treatment that it deserves. It's not scientific anymore. It's become more fantastical.
Yeah, well, they try and class it as a hate man or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what's your theory on that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because, there's a lot of indigenous tribes that talk about Bigfoot stealing their women to procreate with them. So if these tribes were seeing this, there has to be something to it, right? So could they be a hybrid of some sort? It's entirely possible. It depends on how much human DNA they had in them to begin with.
A lot of the American Indians talk about Skinwalker and Bigfoot.
But Skinwalkers and Bigfoot, they actually separate very distinctly. So with Bigfoot, a lot of the tribes have almost a positive view on Sasquatch. Like you have the Quiche Sabe from the Ojibwe people, where he's a teacher. He instructs people to be honest and to never lie. But with the Skinwalkers, this is something they're absolutely terrified of. There's no positivity to the Skinwalkers at all.
Do you think the government know about Bigfoot and probably have got one?
I think they know about them. I think they know just about as much as you and I do, and they're hoping somebody will find one so they can actually, have that live specimen. I do think maybe they keep an eye on some of them in certain areas. Sure. Yeah.
I know in some states you're not allowed to shoot a Bigfoot.
Yeah. Washington's one of them where it says you're not allowed to even harass a Bigfoot. So there's something to that too.
It's strange, isn't it?
I'm not sure how you would harass a Bigfoot. Are you going to start calling them names or, what's the harassment that they're talking about?
Even with all the sightings and witnesses coming forward, why do you think we still don't have a clear-cut evidence for existence of the creature?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think any cryptozoologist would have loved to have the answer to that. But I think it's just because we're not looking in the right place. We need to find where these things actually are living. We might find footprints or whatever, but unfortunately, footprints aren't evidence, so we might need to actually find a body someday. I know that makes a lot of people very angry, and it triggers some Bigfoot lovers out there. But if we ever want solid proof, a body's going to really be the thing that we need. And I got to take a moment to say
Yeah,
hello to Ashley. Hello.
Ashley. Yeah, there's quite a few. Mel, Diane, Joanne, Rebecca, Steph, Mel.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few in the chat room today.
Yeah,
It's quite nice.
it is.
Because when you talk about the people say, why can't you find a Bigfoot wolves when they're dead? I presume they bury them or whatever, like any normal people do.
Well, I mean, nature cleans its plate, so when something dies, nature has a way of just getting rid of that body. You got, other animals out there that are scavengers. You got insects and even the soil. A soil can play a huge role in it because if it's acidic, it's going to break down that body real quick. And who's to say that we haven't found one? We just don't know. We might find a bone, a leg bone, and be like, oh, that's a bear or that's a deer.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare you find bones of a bear.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you can't just walk out in the woods and find a whole bear corpse. You got to really know where to look. And who's to say we don't find Bigfoot stuff? We just don't know it. We don't know how to identify it. We don't have pictures or a scientific catalog to say, oh, this is a Bigfoot bone. So who's to say we haven't found something? We just skipped it over.
Exactly. If anybody's got any questions in the chat room, just put it in capitals and send it in Messenger, and then I'll relay it to Ryan then.
Okay.
There's always a connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. What's your theory on that?
Some people say that there is. They really do. There was a trend during the 60s. There was a string of sightings where a man was actually seeing UFO and then Bigfoot, and then you would see Bigfoot and a UFO. So if he was seeing something along those lines, I like to think maybe Bigfoot is drawn to those UFOs. Like maybe even Bigfoot is curious about these extraterrestrial beings. So when they see these strange lights in the sky, Bigfoot comes to check it out. Like, what is that? I want to see what this is. Is Bigfoot an alien? I don't think so. But, I could be wrong. I'll be the first one to admit that I'm entirely wrong if somebody can prove it.
When we're talking about Bigfoot, do you think the best video was possible was the what they did? Bigfoot video.
The Patterson Gimlin film or the Freeman?
Yeah.
Those two are. So, I mean, people say that they're both fake, but they can't prove they're fake, though. You know what I'm saying? So I still think that's legit evidence.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they've done lots of things on it, because we've got technology now where they can zoom in and see muscles on it, and it looks genuine to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people say that the guy who made Planet of the Apes made that costume, but even the people that made that movie said it wasn't theirs. And it doesn't look anything like the ape costumes used in the Planet of the Apes. So I think that's a cop out, and that's people just not wanting to admit that's real.
Yeah, I totally agree. Have you ever seen a Bigfoot yourself then?
I might have had a possible encounter. I didn't see it physically because it was nighttime. It was very dark, but I did see the eye shine and I did have vocalizations.
Yeah, well, we did at Bempton. I think it was 2017. We kept going up maybe 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night or half 8. And every time we went up, Paul said, them eyes are watching us on that hill.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my favorite saying when we got up there is the eyes on us, Paul. And we didn't, unfortunately, we didn't have the cameras then, what we've got now, night cameras and everything. So just unfortunate at that time, we just didn't have the proper equipment to see what it was.
Right. Well, I mean, with my possible encounter, it was so dark. I mean, people underestimate how dark it is here in Arizona. When there's no moon and there's no lights around you, it gets so dark that you can't even see your hand in front of your face. But, we heard the whooping and we heard something rhythmically clapping its hands as it was following us. And we did see the eye shine that was about 7 feet tall. So we saw something that night.
Yeah. I've got a question from Mel here. I would like to know about the Wendigo, Ryan. Where is it seen and what powers does it have? And
Oh,
shouldn't humans be wary of them? Plus, are they large cryptids? Thank you, Ryan.
okay. So to start off with the last question, I don't consider the Wendigo a cryptid. Okay, the name itself, Wendigo, it means the spirit who devours. Okay, so there's the key word. It's a spirit. Now, what the Wendigo is, it's an entity that is found in Canada and even down to Minnesota. It's mostly around during the wintertime. It's a Puaganok, so it's a winter spirit. And it'll possess a human being after they've broken certain cultural taboos. The most popular one is cannibalism. So if somebody were to eat their family, then the Wendigo is going to slide into that person and possess them, much like a demon would. But they can also become a Wendigo through nightmares. So if they're seeing the Wendigo in their dreams, that's kind of an indication that the Wendigo is taking over that person. Or it can happen through a curse. A shaman can curse somebody to become Wendigo. And so it's something you do have to watch out for. If you're of any indigenous blood at all, you have to be really careful to follow your spiritual beliefs very closely and very strictly. Because if you break those taboos, the Wendigo might pay you a visit. So you do have to be very careful of them.
Another question here, Ryan. Do you think there are Bigfoots across the world?
Oh, absolutely. You have the Yeti, the Orang Pendek. All these different cultures are talking about some form of large primate running through their woods. I think that there are Bigfoot all across the world, just people haven't found them yet.
Yeah. When you talk about skinwalker, could you summon a skinwalker?
You could. I definitely would not recommend it. I mean, the Yinararushi, they're evil, evil beings. You don't want to tamper with them in any way, shape, or form. And don't revere them. Don't pay them credit like they're good things, but also don't tamper with them. It's like anything that's deadly or evil. If you mess with it, it's going to mess with you right back.
So, for people out there, what is a skinwalker?
Okay, so the Navajo skinwalker, which is where all the skinwalker stuff actually began, is with the Navajo / Dene people. It's a shaman that instead of actually following the blessing way, where they're there to help their people and treat them like they're respectful, the Yinararushi are the bad guys. Okay, they take the magics and the blessing way and they twist it, and they do this in order to cause chaos and strife amongst their own tribe and anybody who's considered an outsider. So once you have the skinwalker's attention, you're kind of in a lot of trouble. You're going to have to find a good shaman and get him to bless you to get rid of that skinwalker.
Yeah, they still talk about Well, they still talk about it today. Skinwalker all over the world.
They're terrified of them. I mean, I've spoken to Navajo people, and they don't even like to say the word Yinararushi. If you say that to them, they'll give you that evil eye of like, why are you bringing this name up? They don't want you to even acknowledge them. But it is something that they are 100% afraid of to this day.
How did you get into talking about skinwalker?
So it's similar to the Wendigo. I saw a lot of people talking about them, but I got that feeling that they were talking about them the wrong way. And so I want to find the truth about them like I did with the Wendigo. So I went to William Nighthawk. He's a Lakota elder and he's a shaman as well. And he told me, no, everything that they talk about is completely wrong. So what you need to do, Ryan, is you need to make connections with Navajo people. So I went to the different reservations here in Arizona, even though it was risky. I went to the reservation, and being the dude that I am, I walked right onto a reservation to a big crowd of Navajo people. And I just kind of, puffed up like that little puffer fish. And I'm like, so who's going to tell me about the skinwalkers? And it wasn't a smart thing to do. I could have sworn for a minute that they were going to kill me and my friend, because they were all giving us that evil look. And I did. I looked at my buddy. I'm like, we're going to die. But this old couple came up to me and they asked me, why do you want to know about the Yinararushi? And so I was honest. I told them, because I want to present the facts. I don't want to present creepypastas. I don't want to present horror stories. I want to present the facts and get people to talk about them the right way. And this was about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And since then, I've made connections with other Navajo people, and they come to me and they tell me, okay, you want to know this part, so we'll tell you about it. We'll teach you. And I've learned so much in these past 2 years from the Navajo people that it's amazing. It's stuff I didn't know before.
I suppose it goes back into their heritage.
Yeah, it goes
hundreds of years.
Yes, it goes way, way, way back before settlers were even here. So at one point in time, the skinwalkers were actually kind of a positive thing at one point, because they were medicine men that would shapeshift in order to get from one place to another. They use this as a means of travel because it was faster. But then the Trail of Tears happened, where the Navajo were uprooted from their lands, and that's when everything took a turn. When the Spaniards came in and everything, that's when skinwalkers turned evil.
It could be, I suppose it can be frightening, can't it? If you ever met one.
I don't want to meet one. Let's put it that way. I don't want to see one ever. I mean, it's kind of a contradiction.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into werewolves then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had a dogman encounter. It was more of a hyena-like kind of creature, but I have looked into werewolves because, like I said at the beginning of the show, my dad was Cajun, so he used to talk about the Rougarou, which, as all of you know, that's Louisiana werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody else that I know, two lads from Liverpool, they'd seen a werewolf, and he said it looked like an hyena at the beginning until it stood up.
Yeah,
that's about 7 foot tall.
That's what I saw too when I had my encounter here in southern Arizona. I could have sworn I was looking at a hyena until the thing stood up on two legs, and I was like, "That's not a hyena." They don't stand up on two legs like that.
How far away were you from it then?
15 feet. I was 15 feet away from this thing. So had that thing want to, eat me for lunch or dinner, it easily could have. It just chose not to. I guess maybe I didn't look appetizing or whatever.
So did you just back off then?
No, I literally was frozen in place. I was not going to move when I saw this thing. I was so terrified because I didn't know what I was looking at. In Arizona, we don't have hyenas. So when I saw this thing, I was so rooted in place that I couldn't run. My brain said run, but my body was like, yeah, no, we're going to stay right here.
Yeah, these two lads what saw this creature just backed away slowly. The dogs had the tail between the legs, so they were scared. And they eventually just backed and back, and then just went. And one of the brothers said, "I'm never ever coming here ever again."
I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit.
That's been finished.
Yeah, you see something like that, and your mind just goes all kinds of crazy. You don't know how to register that. You don't know how to collate it and make it make sense, especially when it's not supposed to be there. It's something that you're going, "What is this, and why is it here? And am I in danger?" You're going to be afraid of that.
Do you think some of these creatures are interdimensional then?
I think so. I honestly think that, especially with Dogman, that's why we don't find bodies. You ever notice we don't find any Dogman bodies? We scarcely find footprints. We don't find any fur from Dogman. So I think these things have an interdimensional slope to them. So again, it might go back to that thought form theory as well. So it's really hard to say.
Yeah, because you think, is it a living creature?
Yeah.
Is it, could it be human? Could they transfix? Where do you think they live? Are they here and then gone into their dimension and just come into our reality when they want to do?
That's what I believe. I think they just show up whenever they feel like it and they leave when they feel like it. Who's going to tell them not to?
Do you think a lot of sightings are, I'm going to say dark nights, October, November, December, January? I think a few of the sightings with what Paul talks about are in them months, October, November, January.
Yep. I mean, mine was in October. So I think it's possible that during these cycles, these months, I think it's the weather. I think that's what brings them out because there's more game for them to have, and maybe there's something about their interdimensional slip that, during these months, it's stronger and there's more power for them to do that. It's really hard to say.
Ruled by the moon.
It could be, it very well could be. Who knows? Maybe there's something to that whole full moon theory,
Well, they've always said that, haven't they? It's a full moon. And one of the sightings of a guy who walked his dog down the beach, it turned out it was like November the 12th. I think it was 2019. It was a full moon.
Right. I mean, Who knows? I mean, the moon plays a part in a lot of things. There's a lot of mythology surrounding the moon. There's got to be something to it, right? If every culture speaks about the power of the moon, there has to be some kind of fact to it.
But when you look to Egypt all them years ago, there were always different, I'm going to say entities, people with strange heads on,
Yeah,
what they're drawn about. So if they happened in that time, why can't it happen in our time?
exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, even the medieval people talk about, dogman-like creatures, what's interesting is in medieval times, though, especially in Europe, the werewolves slash dogmen were seen as a positive thing. There's paintings of these things riding horses and fighting off bad armies. And then nowadays we have this evil view of werewolves. And I think it's because the movies and the novels that we're subjected to growing up.
Yeah, I know Paul's looked into the Flixton werewolf, and
Hmm.
that goes back quite a long way away
Yeah. 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 I mean,
in the UK.
there's so much to it. I mean, they even have the Wolvers over in your area, and the Wolvers were said to help with wary travelers. If there was a traveler that was lost, this Wolver
Right.
would come and would feed them, and it would guide them home, and it would kind of stand guard over them while they slept. So you got to wonder, at what point in time did these things go from being heroic to so villainous like nowadays? I mean, people hear Dogman and instantly they're terrified. So what happened? When did they go bad?
Do you see people talking to you and saying, "What a load of rubbish you're talking about"?
I get it all the time. I do. I get it with Bigfoot and Wendigo and Dogman. They're like, oh, there's nothing like that out there. Otherwise, we'd see them every day. But would you? Why would you see them every day? That doesn't make any sense to say that. I mean, if you're not living in a wooded area and you're not going out every day, why would you see a Bigfoot or a Dogman every day? They're not going to just walk down the city street and, blare a horn to let you know they're out there. So that never makes sense when somebody says that to me. I think they got to take some time to learn, to educate themselves.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen a UFO on your travels?
I haven't, not yet. That's something that I would love to see personally, but I've seen, a Dogman. I've seen a possible Bigfoot. I've had some kind of almost paranormal experiences when talking about the Raven Mocker and the Wendigo. So I've had some experiences of my own.
Oh, tell us, do you think, I've told this many a time, do you think we are chosen to see things?
I think some of them do pick us out. I think they kind of sense our vibe, they sense our energies, and they present themselves to us because they know that we'll believe. Why are you going to waste energy to show yourself to someone who's just going to deny it anyway and say, oh, I didn't see what I think I saw. It was just a hallucination. No, you're going to go to somebody that's going to be like, oh, I did see this. So that's what I think is, if you're open to it, you're more likely to see something.
Yeah. Mason's saying, have you had any bad experiences?
I wouldn't say bad. I mean, maybe something that was a little frightening. Some time back, I was on a show talking about the Wendigo, and the host had mentioned how, oh, since it's a Wendigo or winter spirit, you're in Arizona. You have this high heat. You scarcely get snow. Would the Wendigo mess with you? And just to bring some levity to a very dark subject that we were talking about, I was like, oh, no, man. Wendigo knows better than to mess with me in this Arizona heat. And just as I said that, we started getting a snowstorm. So I'm looking out my window and I see these fat flakes of snow falling. So I kind of lost all base of my voice at that point. I'm going, oh, well, maybe I was wrong and I shouldn't mess with a Wendigo like that. Because that was kind of spooky that it started snowing just when I said that. I don't believe in coincidences, but, I don't know. It's not something I'm going to do again. That's for sure.
Yeah, but things do happen like that, don't you? As soon as you start talking about things like that,
Mm-hmm.
you usually see something and you think,
Yeah.
my God, been talking about that. We see, so it's like thinking of seeing your friend of yours you haven't seen for ages. You walk down the street and you bump into him.
That's called manifestation. And I do believe in manifestation. I think if you think about something too long, or if you obsess over it, you're going to kind of make something like that appear, or you're going to make some bad stuff happen. If you're, totally negative, if you're constantly negative, constantly in a bad mood, you're going to bring bad energy your way and you're going to manifest some bad stuff. I do believe that.
Do you think you've had a come back with an attachment or anything like that from a
Not
paranormal event?
Not yet, thank goodness. I haven't had to do it personally, but I do know friends who are in the paranormal field that have had to tangle with some stuff that they probably shouldn't have invoked. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
a friend
I
of
had a,
mine did as well.
yeah, I had a friend of mine who, she and her boyfriend went ghost hunting at some abandoned orphanage here. And, that's harmless enough, but you still got to be a little careful when you do that kind of stuff. She actually found some clothing there and she took it home. And not
Oh,
even like
God.
3 days later, she started seeing this really insidious looking thing. It looked like almost like a white pale crawler where it was bald. It had these big black eyes, and she would see it crawling up her walls, and it kept telling her to bring that stuff back. So because she took items that didn't belong to her, there was an attachment to that. It didn't stop until she brought that stuff back to where she had got it. That's why I tell her, whenever you go out, don't ever pick anything up. It doesn't matter if it's like an arrowhead, a rock, anything like that. Don't ever bring anything home from one of these locations because you don't know what's attached to that.
And well, I know I know when I go out, I try and protect myself
Yes.
when I'm out there. 'Cause a friend of mine, he went to Redwood Forest.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he's passed away now, right? And he was told beforehand, don't go down there. I've warned you now. Anyway, a
Yep.
friend had rang up and came to visit him and said, Derek, take us down to the forest. And he
Ooh.
went down there and brought attachment back.
Oh
And
no.
he went back home. He went on his computer. The thing at back of him smashed his face on the computer, broke his nose, went
Ow.
unconscious. Woke up in the morning thinking about his dog. His dog were in bath. He managed to crawl out and get the next door neighbour, and rang one of his friends who was a psychic medium, and came over and said, "What did I say to you, Derek?
Ooh.
Why did you do it?"
Right.
Well,
Right.
anyway, she managed to get rid of the attachment, but she said, "When I say something, you should take notice, Derek. I said
Yeah.
it. I didn't want anything to happen to you."
Absolutely. I mean,
And I say to people,
mhm.
it proves a point. You've got to be careful.
All the time. You have to be careful all the time. I learned from talking to all the different tribal members here. If they say don't go to a certain area, you don't even question it. You just don't go to that area. Okay. You stay away from it because there's a reason they won't go to it. And it's the same reason you shouldn't go to it.
Do you work on your own most times, or have you got a few other people go with you?
I got some people that go with me, but I prefer to work alone because people become too panicky. They get too nervous. And when you're talking about something like skinwalkers, they're going to convince themselves they're going to see something or they're going to hear something. And I like to avoid that. I like to be by myself. So if I hear something, it's not because I convinced myself, it's because something really happened.
Yeah, we've had that up at Benton. We had people
Mhm.
come up there and say, "I don't like it. I want to go
Yeah,
back. Will you walk me back to my car?" And you think, well, it's quite a long way to walk back to the car and then come back again. Say,
exactly.
look, just stop here with us. You're going to be fine.
Yep.
Don't
Well,
worry
people, I mean,
about
when they go out and they know that you're looking for a particular thing, they convince themselves that something's going to happen. Okay. So when they go out into like a dark desert area with me, they're already on alert. They're alarmed and everything. And they think every twig snap is something bad or every coyote howl is something bad. And I don't like to have that. I like to be able to focus and really look around and see what I can find.
it. Is there any stories you can tell us what's been happening when you've been out?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most frightening ones is actually a skinwalker thing. I went out somewhere that supposedly a skinwalker once resided there. Okay, and it was pointed out to me by a Navajo person. And so I went all by myself. I didn't let anybody know where I was going. They didn't know what time I was going to go, what time I was going to be back. So I was out there looking around, seeing if I could find any, paintings or any sand paintings or anything that would indicate Skinwalker was there. So it's nighttime, right? And in the distance, I start hearing an old woman's voice calling me by name. And what are the
Oh,
chances of two Ryans being out there at the same time? And here's an
exactly.
old woman, calling my name and calling my name. And I'm looking around and I'm not seeing anything. There's nobody visible. I got my flashlight and I can't see any bodies. I can't see any movement. And what they say with a skinwalker is the further away that it sounds, the closer to you it really is. So this woman sounded like she was off in the distance. So in reality, if that was a skinwalker, it was actually really, really close to me. And that's when I just said, you know what? I'm out. I'm not even going to risk this. I'm going to get back. I'm just out of here. I took off, man. I was just like, yeah, I'm not going back there, man. No, that was too much.
Well, yeah, exactly. You did the right thing. Get out while the going's good.
Yep. And I talked to William Nighthawk about it, and I told him, yeah, I heard this old woman calling my name, and nobody knew I was out there. He's like, no human knew you were out there. But when you start talking about the Yinaralushi, they know who you are now. So there was something calling your name right. It just wasn't something that you'd want to see. So I got total goosebumps when he said that. I was just like, oh, let's not do this again.
Yeah, I can imagine. I would have been the same as you.
Mm-hmm.
When they start calling your name out.
I'll try to be brave, but once you start calling my name, that's when I'm like, all right, nah, you know too much about me already. I'm done. See ya.
Yeah, exactly. When you're going to, whereabouts are you? You in Tennessee?
No, I'm in Arizona. I'm in southern Arizona.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think Arizona is a lot of sand, but there's lots of forest down there, isn't there?
Yeah. A lot of people think it's like the cartoons that you see. It's all just straight desert. It's really not. Our mountains are filled with woods and forests and everything. We got Mogollon Rim. The Mogollon Rim has the Mogollon monster, its own Bigfoot. So there's there's plenty of green. The mountains have waterfalls and lakes and streams. So there's water up there, and we got plenty of animals out here. So there's plenty of prey.
So what you seen down there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen the Dogman.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of, ironically, I didn't believe in Dogman when I had my encounter. I thought, an upright canine, that doesn't make any sense. Why would dogs walk on two legs? I kind of doubted it. I did read the books by the late Miss Lena Godfrey, but I still was like, I don't know. But once I saw that Dogman, that's when I was like, okay, Ryan, you were wrong. So we got to start looking into this stuff.
Is there some secret mountains down there then, where you are?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Arizona's got a lot of hush-hush stuff that, people don't look into. I mean, Superstition Mountains supposedly has the Dutchman's Mine. There's a lot of secret areas.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of places to discover that have not yet been discovered.
How, in miles, or how far is it then? How far distance can you go to?
Well, Superstition Mountains are only about maybe 60 miles away from me, so not far at all. Then I got, the Grand Canyon, but I'm literally surrounded by mountains, okay? We got the Rincons, we got Mount Lemmon, and it's all within an hour and a half away from me. So it's prime travel, just hop in a car, get on a bus, and go off to the mountains. There's plenty of places to go.
What stuff do you take with you?
Well, usually I take a phone, just in case emergencies happen. I do have a video camera that I'll take with me in case any weird stuff really starts kicking off, so that way I can record it. I usually take a knife. I'm not big on guns. I don't believe in using guns too often unless I absolutely have to. So I'll just, I'll take the necessities. I'll take food and water. I'll take my dog, Duke, that boy right there who's sleeping. He's my best alarm. Okay. He doesn't get nervous over anything when we're out there. But if he starts getting nervous when we're out there, then I know it's time to go home, because Duke will start getting panicked and he'll start growling and howling. And that's when it's time for Ryan to leave.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like in the UK, we're not allowed guns at all.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have a license, and you've got to have a license to say why you want a gun. So we don't have guns at all. So, when you're up there, you've basically got not a lot with you.
Yeah, I mean,
cameras and all that business.
That's kind of good in case you have to run, because if you got heavy stuff on your back, you're not going to run very fast.
No. When you talk about down the south, in Louisiana and places like that, and the
Hmm.
creatures what have been seen down there.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got the Rougarou. You have the
Yeah.
Honey Island Swamp Monster. You know, you got the Lizard Man. There's so much to see down there too. You know, and it's just I
Have
need
you
to get.
looked into any of them?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Rougarou is something I grew up on. You know, my dad used to kind of use that as a scary story to keep me in line when I was a kid. You know, if I did this, the Rougarou is going to get me, or if I was out too late, the Rougarou is going to get me. And when I was a kid, I kind of thought it was just a scary thing that dad was saying just to, put the fright into me. But as I got older, I started looking into our traditions because, it's in my bloodline. I started looking into it and I realized, oh, so when dad jokes about this, he's not joking at all. It's a real thing. And so I was able to ask my uncles on his side, what's the Rougarou? And they would tell me if somebody breaks the Catholic rules, this person's going to become a monster. He becomes a Rougarou, a werewolf, and he's cursed until he can find somebody else to take that curse on for him. So, my dad was actually kind of mean by threatening me with that when I was a kid. I was like, wow, dad, that was a jerk move.
Do you think a lot of these animals migrate then?
I think some of them do. I think that's why we don't find them in the areas that we look into because we're kind of missing their migration path. And I think maybe what we need to do is start collating information that shows like how they're moving down from state to state, try to get everybody to kind of share that information so we can figure out when they migrate to, where they go, how they do it. And if we could figure that out, we might actually find one or two of them. Who knows?
Yeah, that would help if everybody got on one side and shared their information.
Yes, that's one thing that is missing in all these fields. People want to hold that information so close to the vest and they don't want to share it with anybody else. And then they wonder, how come we can't solve these mysteries? It's simple. Teamwork makes the dream work. Okay. If you're not sharing your info, then only you're going to know. Nobody else is going to know. None of these researchers will know. We're not going to figure things out. And no one person is going to solve these mysteries alone. It's going to take a teamwork. It's going to take a group effort. We all have to work hand in hand. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think somebody was saying about you should never wear a pelt.
Oh, yeah, that goes back to the Yi Naralushi. So when they want to change forms, what they'll do is they'll take the pelt of, say, a coyote. They'll skin that coyote. They'll take that pelt to their cave, and they'll spend, weeks to even months chanting and doing their magics over this pelt so that when they don it, they become the coyote. So you can't even tell if it's a skinwalker. You could see a coyote, and that could be a Yi Naralushi running by you. You wouldn't know it unless, A, you looked at the eyes. So when they're in their animal form, they don't have animal eyes. They have human eyes, okay? And then another way you're going to know it's a skinwalker is if you capture it. If you capture it, it's going to revert back to human form. Other than those two ways, you're not going to know.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's still like I'm always interested in the Wendigo. I don't know why. And you're writing a book about it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I mean, people will say there's no historical evidence of the Wendigo, but that's actually not true at all. So in Fort Saskatchewan in Canada in 1878, there was a fur trader by the name of Swift Runner. Okay. And this guy was, he was a very stocky, very well-trained Indian. He knew what he was doing. He took his family along this hunting route, which he had traveled many, many, many times. And he had a hunting cabin that he would stay with his family there. He came back to Fort Saskatchewan about 3 weeks after he left, and he was talking about how starvation had settled in with he and his family. Weird thing is, he looked like he had gained weight, and they couldn't find his family anywhere. So finally, after questioning him a lot, he led them back to that cabin where he had admitted he cannibalized his family. And he told the magistrates the reason why he killed his family, the Wendigo made him do it. So there is historical evidence where somebody did become a Wendigo. Some people say it's just Wendigo psychosis. He was just a psychopath or whatever, but he was very explicit. He said it was the Wendigo. He was having nightmares of the Wendigo. He was seeing it in his dreams all the time. So you have to take that into account, right?
So he wanted to protect his family then, basically.
In a way, what happened is, the Wendigo took hold of him. Okay. And when they followed him to this cabin, he actually kind of gloated about how he killed his family members. Now I won't get too graphic because I know we're on YouTube, but he did pick up the skulls. He actually walked over to the skulls and he would put his fingers between the eyes, right into the eyes, and he'd pick up the skull and he'd waggle it. He'd be like, "This was my wife," and he'd just throw it away. He'd pick up another one. He'd be like, "This was my mother-in-law." He would just throw it away. And he told how he killed his infant son. What he did is he hung his infant son with a noose. He had him hanging on a branch. He would pull on his legs to hear the infant scream and try to gasp.
Oh, God. That's
Yep.
terrible, isn't it?
It is. And, when you look at his records, they said he was a very nice man. He was very friendly and he adored his family. So he never showed any indications beforehand that he was going to kill them like this. So something happened to make him change mentally where he cannibalized his entire family.
Yeah, there's been sightings of Bigfoot in Alaska as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, you got so many sightings that come out of Alaska. I think there's a lot of them that go up there. I think because they know nobody's going to be able to really go look for them up in that area. So that's where they hide.
And lots of people go missing in Alaska as well, don't they?
Yes. They really do. I mean, you got Port Chatham, you got that Port Chatham, where people disappeared because allegedly a Bigfoot was killing their people. So they said, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I think they talked about, I can't remember, what it's 60,000, 70,000 people a year go missing in just Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, Alaska's a dangerous place. You can't just walk up there and go outside and have a good time. You got to know what you got to do to survive. It's very cold. There's a lot of dangers out there. Could all of them disappearances be Bigfoot? I don't think all of them. I think there's a lot of things that happen out there, accidents, but some of them could be Bigfoot. Who knows?
Yeah, because they talk about UFOs up there as well. Loads of them appearing.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
are they taking people away?
They could be. I mean, it's such a good spot for anything supernatural or extraterrestrial to go. I mean, who's going to really go out there and spend a lot of time trying to look? They get so cold that a human can't really stay out there too long unless they're really well prepared. Unless you were trained how to survive out there. It's not something you just go out like it's into your backyard and sit there and wait for Bigfoot or a UFO to show up.
Have you ever looked into the Yowie in Australia?
I have. I actually have some Australian friends that are researching that. And I'm not sure what to make of it. Some of them say that they're Aboriginal people. So it's like, well, are they Bigfoot or are they actual people? It's hard to make sense of. I think it's something I'd have to go to Australia to and actually, investigate it myself to really get some kind of clue and some answers of what's really going on there.
Yeah, I've interviewed quite a couple, about 3 people from Australia talking about Yowie, and they've been out there and seen it and followed it about, and but what is it exactly?
I don't think anybody knows. I think everybody has an opinion. I think everybody has a theory, but do any of us know for a fact? Absolutely not. We do not.
Well, it's like going into Tibet and looking up there. There's been so many sightings for the Yeti.
Yes, the Yeti. What's funny is the name, the Yeti, actually means that thing. So when people say, oh, the Yeti was proven to be a bear, it's like, no, it wasn't, though, because the name itself means that thing. It doesn't mean bear.
No. And that's been seen quite a few times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seems to just walk off the,
There's stories of the Yeti coming down from the mountains to kill the yaks that are in the valley. Because there are farmers in Siberia that have, the yaks and the cows. And it's been said by a lot of them that the Yeti will come down and it'll just break the necks of a cow or a yak and then go back. Seems legit to me.
Yeah, well, they could be interdimensional as well.
They could be. That would explain why they can survive in such a harsh environment. They don't have to stay there all the time.
I'm going to say, because it is harsh up there, isn't it?
It is
cold.
Yeah. It gets mighty, mighty, mighty cold up there. Yes.
I've heard people go there and they say it's a fantastic place to go, but I wouldn't like to get stranded out there.
Yeah, you don't want to live there. That's for sure. Mm-mm.
So what else are you looking into besides Wendigo?
Well, I'm looking into the Raven Mocker as well. That's another thing that people have shown a lot of interest in. So I've been talking about it a lot on different shows.
And what is that then?
All right, so the Raven Mocker, also known as a Kalanu Akaleski, it's a Cherokee belief. It's part of the Sunayi Adahi, which is the night goers. The night goers are a group of evil spirits that are there to torment the Cherokee people. And the most feared of all is the Raven Mocker. It's known as the Death Bringer or the Heart Eater. It actually patronizes the sick or the dying, and it's looking to consume their hearts to extend its own life. So what this thing will do, because not just anybody can see it, you have to be a special medicine man gifted with the sight, as they call it.
Right.
That's the only way you can see a Raven Mocker. So this thing will torment the sick and the dying. It'll mentally abuse them by terrifying them and making threats. And it'll, dole out physical abuse in order to actually pierce their chest without even breaking the skin to remove their heart so it can expand its own life. The only way to stop this is for the medicine man to actually see it physically. Once the Raven Mocker is seen, it actually dies within a week. But it's actually just as feared as the Skinwalker. So you have the Navajo that are terrified of the Yinaradushi. The Cherokee are terrified of the Raven Mocker. And that's something that not a lot of people cover in the right way. I've seen Bigfoot researchers say, oh, the Raven Mocker is a Bigfoot. No, it's not. Because when you talk to the Cherokee people, they say it's a spirit. It's an entity from a different dimension that's evil. It's got nothing to do with a Bigfoot at all. So my goal is to take all this stuff that people are misinterpreting and mistranslating and put it out there so people know the true indigenous stories.
I agree with you there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's too much say out there where people get everything wrong. And
yes.
I'm glad you're looking into that.
It needs to be done. It does need to be done because, I've heard people calling Bigfoot Wendigo as well. And I've always wondered, how do you get Bigfoot out of Wendigo, though? The two are so drastically different. They're almost worlds apart. So how can you compare them and put them in the same category? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And what else are you looking into?
That's it for now. With all the stuff I've mentioned here in my book, my plate is entirely full. It's overflowing. So I'm hoping to get some stuff done so I can start clearing that plate a little bit and looking to other topics at some point.
Do you go out yourself on a weekend or when you can?
I try to. As often as I can, I try to get out there and talk to as many different indigenous people as I can. Because the more that I can learn, the more that I can relay back to the other people, the more I can put in my book. So, we can actually educate people on a very firm and strong basis. That way they're getting the tales right from the indigenous people. And I'm kind of opening that whole new world for them, so it's not just Bigfoot and Dogman. They're learning about other stuff as well.
If you were just starting out, what advice would you give somebody looking into Bigfoot and Wendigo?
Well, don't be afraid to learn, okay? Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question, okay? So whatever questions you have on your mind, put them out there. Ask as many people as you can. Also, don't be afraid to actually reach out to other researchers. Reach out to them and ask whatever you have on your mind, because you got to remember, at one point, they were at the same point that you were. They were just a newbie. They were just starting out. They were wet behind the ears. So reach out to them and talk to them, okay? And definitely get out there. Go outside. Don't sit in front of your computer or in front of your phone or in front of your TV. Get out there and actually look around. Do the physical work. Do the legwork.
Yes. Yeah, that's true as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say about the law of attraction is very strong with them, Bigfoot, then.
Yeah. I believe so. I believe it is. I'm hoping that this law of attraction is going to apply to me at some point, and I'll get a very, very clear view when I have an encounter of Bigfoot again.
Do you think Skinwalker is supernatural then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely 100%. I think that's another thing that people have to stop calling a cryptid, because skinwalkers are supernatural and paranormal. They're witches essentially that are using magic to shapeshift. There's nothing cryptid about that. That's 100% paranormal.
Mason's just, I'll just put this up anyway. Ryan, I believe that Native Americans believe Bigfoot have spoken to them about sightings.
Yes, actually, I speak to a lot of the tribal members about the Bigfoot sightings they've had. And in fact, my friend William Nighthawk, he's more like my brother. He's a Lakota, so I've heard about Chea Tonka, the Big Brother. I've heard about Hatakaluso from the Cherokee. So yeah, I do get to hear about the indigenous beliefs in Bigfoot. Some of them are quite beautiful, actually. They're romantic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no question here. Is Bigfoot a skinwalker or a dogman? It's strange,
No,
the questions like that.
no. Those three are completely different altogether. And I think we got to work on separating Dogman and Skinwalkers, especially because the two are not the same at all. And Bigfoot, no, not even close to being a Skinwalker at all. With the way that the tribes talk about Bigfoot, it's a very positive kind of thing where they actually revere Bigfoot. Skinwalkers, yeah, they don't like Skinwalkers one bit. So, no, not one and the same.
I know some people say that they can communicate with Bigfoot and leave things for them to pick up, and they
Yeah,
leave things for them.
yeah, I mean, I was told by people from the Navajo, from Cherokee, from William, the Lakota, that if you're going to gift them, give them tobacco because tobacco is a sacred plant in all indigenous beliefs. It's not just used for smoking cigarettes. It's got, certain values to them. So you
Ah,
leave them
right.
tobacco. Yeah, because the Bigfoot will see that as almost like a blessing in a way. So then they'll reward you for giving them that blessing.
Yeah, I've heard lots of people say that
Hmm.
about leaving them something.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've also heard that you should leave them sunflowers because back in the day with a lot of the tribes, sunflowers were medicinal, but they were also considered good luck. So hunters used to ground down the petals of a sunflower and they would actually rub it on their clothes when they were hunting because it was believed that it would bring good luck and good fortune to all those at war.
oh,
Yeah.
very good. We've about nearly come to the end of the program.
Well, that was
If
quick.
people want to get in touch with you and about sightings or anything around the world, where
Mhm.
can they get in touch with you?
So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just look up Ryan Paul Tremblay and just hit me up, request me on any of those sites. And I love conversation. So if you've had an encounter, get ready for a very, very long convo because I love talking to people. So
And you can do it by Skype
yeah,
or
I
any
mean,
other means.
whatever they're comfortable with. If you want to talk to me on Skype, if you want to do a video chat on Facebook or just voice to voice on Facebook, whatever you feel comfortable with, I'm never going to push anybody beyond their comfort zone. So, just hit me up and we'll arrange something.
So you say hopefully your book's going to be out next year,
Actually,
maybe.
I'm hoping by December of this year
Oh,
because I think it'd be great for everybody to have that fright factor during the winter to be reading about the Wendigo.
yeah.
Because you'll have
A
snow
Christmas
falling
box.
around you and you'll be reading about the Wendigo. So hopefully, if it's out in December, you guys will pick it up and have that little frightmare before Christmas.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's been very interesting talking to you. It's been wonderful. Um,
Likewise, I really enjoyed this.
everybody's saying what a great guest you are. So
Oh,
it's
thank you.
wonderful. Interesting guest. Good to watch it again from the beginning. Super guest. Thank you, Ryan. That's from Mason.
You're welcome.
Night, folks. Stay safe. Thank you, Bob, for producing the broadcast tonight. Yeah, well, it's always interesting when we talk about something different. Joanne's
Mhm.
just saying, great guest, Bob. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's so much.
Um,
I mean, that's what I love about this. Is there's so much to learn. You can always learn from other people, and you can sit and have intellectual conversations and no arguments. And I love that. I love doing that.
that's true. I agree with that.
Mhm. Oh, we can't hear you. Nope, we still can't hear you. Did you mute yourself?
No.
There you
Is that
go.
right?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, it's Jim Myers on Friday. He's been on the show before, is Jim.
Nice.
Just
Very
get
nice.
this right. Oh, he's a great guy, he's Jim. I like him. Great
We'll have to
guest.
do this again soon. We'll definitely have to do this again soon.
Yeah, yes, thank you again anyway.
My pleasure.
You take care. It's
All right.
been wonderful tonight. Thank you
All
again.
right, you all be well, okay? My pleasure.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.